Hey, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. I'm glad that you could be with us this afternoon or whatever time of day it is for you. Um, Jan from New York City is
Hey,
here.
Steve, everybody.
I I know you changed your channel name, and I'm so used to the old one. But anyway,
That's totally okay. Save Money and More with Jan channel is the, semi brand new name. I just wanted to change. That's all.
yeah,
So what am I looking at that's spinning around?
what you're seeing back there is a older, probably middle '60s ish, if I had to take a guess, maybe even late '60s, reel to reel tape deck, and what I thought we would do is try something a little different. You know what my normal everyday topics are. In fact, this is something I had mentioned a while back and never followed through on it because of being a little apprehensive. Today, I thought we would maybe talk a little bit about a period of music that is highly looked over if you stop and think about it. It came after the 1950s, but it's before the British music invasion. It's that early 60s period that a lot of people don't focus a lot on. More people in the 60s will focus more on British music and the latter than they will this early 60s side.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Steve, because I don't know, I had a suspicion you might have been going there with when you firstly introduced. And I'm like, I do not know why that period of time seems to have been glossed over somewhat.
Hmm.
And that's a shame because there's a lot of good stuff.
Hmm.
And back in those days, Steve, we were relying on, the DJs that played these records, if you will, back in the, good old days.
Hmm. That's right. And now, the way everything is today, everything now these days, you could go to your phone, to your laptop, your tablet, go to almost any music streaming device, YouTube, Spotify, Deezer, Pandora. The list could go on, and you could create your own playlist of music. And all it is now is tap tap, and you got something to listen to. You know.
You're right. That definitely makes things a lot more convenient. But I do have to say something, since I'm a baby boomer, if you will. I miss doing what I'm looking at below.
Yeah, me too. Now, I'm not a baby boomer. I'm the generation after baby boomer. I'm the generation X. But years ago, the record store was my candy store. I kid you not. Even though I talk about what I do on my videos, music is always going to be my number one. I can carry on a conversation for hours on end about it, and I wouldn't get tired. But my parents, whenever I got a wild hair up in me, oh my God, mom, dad, please take me to the record store. I just heard this awesome song. I'd like to have it. And a lot of the time, it wasn't a problem there. But here's where the problem came in. Something that would take the average person 15, 20 minutes to go in and buy, not with Steve. When he went to the record store, he went in there and he stayed maybe 2.5, 3 hours. And my parents hated it. I felt bad now that I look back, because this is when I was a teenager. But now that I look back, being a grown up, I feel bad for them because they're probably thinking, "Oh my gosh, what is Steve doing in there?" Because I would go in there and just look and look and look. I mean, even though I know what I wanted to buy, but I would just look at all different. I would hear a certain song playing in there. A lot of the time, you go into a record store, they play music. You hear something you like. Oh, who was that? Oh, go over and look at it. But I used to love the record store, and I used it as you used to do.
It
What
was
they're
magical, Steve. I remember, for example, on a Saturday afternoon, typically, let's say about, since we're recording on a Saturday, so reminiscent. I'd be meeting my, when we were teenagers, meeting my friends, make a day of it, literally go over to the local record store and just spend time, then just go to lunch or maybe hit up with a little bit of a movie. But more often than not, after we hung out, we couldn't wait to go home and play our treasures, our albums, our 45s. Steve, how about those times like when you would listen to the radio and you couldn't wait till your favorite song came on the radio and you had to write it down and or listen or wait all day long for the DJ to play it again. But you
Yeah.
couldn't wait to get to the record store and buy it, There was something
Hmm.
about doing that.
Well, well, you being a boomer, I'm a Gen X, but you know about the Gen X generation because of your teaching days. But um, my music that I grew up with as a kid, teenager, preteen, all of that was the '80s music, and there were there were a few that I can remember having the cassette tape in there, and as soon as it came on, you had to hurry over and hit the record button in
Yes.
order to be able to, you know, record it. So,
Yes.
like one song that I really love, I still love it today. In fact, by this particular lady. She has some of the most beautiful music. Her name is Enya, Enya, and she had a song that come out in early '89. It was called Orinoco Flow. And I loved it back in '89 when I first heard it. I always recorded it on tape as much as I could. Later on, I eventually wound up getting the song, so I had it.
Yes.
That was one of them. Another one that came on MTV back when it was a music station. I know we're focusing on the early '60s, and we'll get to that. But back when MTV was a real music station worth listening to, it was matter of fact, it was the time that it snowed here, December of '89, and I'm sitting there and I hear this song with a awesome bass line. Pump up the jam, pump it up while your feet are. So I'm like, what the? The song starts and it hits me. I'm listening to it. I said, "Holy smoke! Oh my gosh!" That's when I went and got with my dad after the video, and I said, Dad, what's wrong?" I said, "I just heard this song on MTV called Pump Up the Jam by a group called Technotronic." I said, "Please take me to the record store." And to this day, I still have the CD. So that was back then.
Exactly. There was just something about it. I feel like I'm as old as Methuselah because I've been through every genre of recording. Example, vinyl, cassette, micro cassette, 8 track. Oh my word,
Mini
and then
disc.
CDs and then,
Yeah,
YouTube, like, right?
you had a couple of other formats of music that didn't really take off that well. You also had one called mini disc that was cool.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you had the DAT tape that looked like an 8 millimeter tape,
Yep.
but that I like it. I still like that format, but it didn't really it was really found more in the recording studio field than it was the home. But some people bought it. It was technically supposed to be the replacement of the reel to reel, but it never took to that.
You
No.
want to know something interesting? When of course, I love Three Dog Night from day one, as you know that. So I remember originally listening to Three Dog Night, of course, on the radio. Then when I purchased things, I used to get it on an 8 track. Okay. And then I would pop that in. And my 8 track player back in the day had an amazing sound. And to listen to that music on that I can't duplicate it. I can't
Mhm.
duplicate it. It's like even with the stuff of now, you know, uh, highly defined music of today, digitized, it still didn't replicate what I used to hear back then.
No. So, yeah, but what happened was I when I guess I was about 13. I guess I still liked my 80s music. It was about 19 late part of 87, I guess, is when it happened. I started getting into a lot of the older music. I started listening to 50s, the early 60s, middle 60s, that whole. So I did that, and the TV show Happy Days was partially an influence on me for that. So every time I watch an episode of Happy Days, it makes me think back to that. But no, speaking of the early 60s, that's why we're here. Um, it was such a unique time for music. It reminded me of 50s music, but it was slightly refined.
Good point.
Um, what I did like too is that in that particular time frame, that was really the time where a lot of your female groups
Yeah.
kind of came into the limelight. If you stop and think about a few that were in the Angels, the Dixie Cups, the
Chiffons.
Chiffons, let's see, the Shirelles,
Yes.
to name a few. Let's see.
Amazing stuff. Amazing.
This may be a little bit. Well, wait a minute. No, they were around the Marvelettes.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the Velvets. I believe that's another one that was out there. But anyway,
Yes.
you had a lot of black women female groups, and that was like their period because you saw more of it then than you did in the 50s. You saw it, but not quite to the same degree.
No, not as prevalent. No.
Which, from there, if you think about it, it actually blossomed out because then came Martha and the Vandellas, the Supremes.
Right.
Um,
Timeless.
I
Timeless
can't really
now.
think of any other female music
I mean,
groups.
like, okay, now, and as a solo artist, Dionne Warwick in those early 60 days, a lot of her amazing work in 64, 63, maybe even 62. I'm not positive. But you want to know what I think, Steve? I have a theory about why that kind of might have been a period of time a little glossed over. I could be 100% wrong. Two reasons: a political reason, the loss of President Kennedy at that moment, at that
Mhm,
time. And then right after that, immediately following, was the huge British invasion of music. So that sort of just put the country in confusion. And the British invasion music, like we sort of like try to get distracted from the sadness that we were facing at that time. But
mhm,
that the music prior, amazing. I love it. It's just a great place to revisit. I'm glad
mhm.
you appreciate that. You haven't
I
been born
do.
in 1974, you know.
Yeah.
And just for the record, I was in my 20s in the 1980s, so I kind of relate to some of that music. Wasn't that old yet.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I encourage anyone who maybe is a little curious about music from back then to, tap, tap, tap and give a listen. It might be something for you to listen to and enjoy.
Oh, another oh, silly me, I thought of 2 other groups that were female, the Ronettes and the Crystals. I forgot I left them out. I don't want
Amazing, amazing
um,
beautiful stuff.
but yeah, that was an amazing period in music, and, and then, within that period, then you started having a lot of your surfing music come into play too.
Yes,
Um like the Regents, Barbara Ann, the original Barbara Ann. You had the Beach Boys,
yes,
Jan and Dean.
yep,
All of that surfing sound was,
absolutely. That those sounds of California and surfing, absolutely.
mhm,
It was just a
yes.
great period of time, and lots of nice memories. And I love all kinds of music in general in life, but it's good that we took a minute to give that little extra honor to a period of time of music that might have been a little glossed over. And like I said, Steve, a lot of it had to do with the reliance on the DJs, local disc jockeys, with the radio stations. Not like today, tap tap, everybody hears anything
I
they
know.
want
Right,
across the
right.
world. Back then, you got what you got. For example, there was a song. by, oh, why do I forget his name? His Apple in it, whatever. And you know that song I used to like, Krabby Appleton. I forgot the exact name. I think it was called Go Back.
Go back. Yep. Yep.
It was very popular on the West Coast. The DJs were playing it. At the same time, they were not playing it on the East Coast. So I never heard of that tune till not that long ago, about 5 or 6 years ago. I never heard of it. So it goes to show like the music was at the discretion of the DJs.
Get this. Now I have to beam over to the 80s for a minute.
Sure.
In the 1980s, you had a group called Tapau, T-P-A-U. And their big song was called Heart and Soul. Give a little bit of heart and soul, give a little bit of love to grow, give a little bit of and
Right.
soul. Why don't you make me beg for more? Anyway, give a sign I need to know. Anyway, that's the basic lyrics. Get a load of this. They had two songs. People think, oh, they're a one-hit wonder. Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
Heart and Soul hit here in the States, but they had another song that was a power ballad called China in Your Hand, but it only hit overseas. Get a load of that.
How do you like that? Yeah.
And China in Your Hand is really pretty, especially the way it starts. So it does happen. You can have a song real popular up north, but not down here, or out west, not over here. In the Midwest, not over here. Anything's possible with a song. There's a lot of different groups and music that was real popular overseas that never even touched America.
Speaking of popular, don't forget to put your hand on the like button for Steve.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, please. I would greatly appreciate that. It would be, great if you did.
It's a great way to help the channel grow.
Another group, here's a couple of groups. One is called La Bionda, Labionda. They had a song called One for You, One for Me. Never really a hit here in the States, but huge overseas.
Amazing.
There's another group called Boney M, Boneym. Huge overseas. Daddy Cool, Ma Baker, Gotta Go Home, Rasputin. Real popular overseas, not really all that popular here in this. But because I know La Bionda and Boney M, I happen to be in Spain within the period that they were popular. Even though I was a small young boy, I still heard it.
Yeah.
But it happens. It happens with music. You can have one song popular in Maine and in Texas. You never heard of it.
I do believe it's how it's distributed. I really do. It's part of it. Because like if I might have heard a song that wasn't popular here, but then I hear it, I'm like, oh wow, this is really, really cool. Why didn't I know about it? Maybe it just wasn't played around, with much here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so but I wanted to try doing a music thing. It's long overdue because I had mentioned it months ago. And a little bit, I had gotten a mixed bag of comments. I got, you should do that. And then I also got comments, oh, if you're going to do that, I don't want to be a part of your channel. They actually come out and said it's not my cup of tea and said, I don't want to be here.
Okay.
So when I heard that, it made me apprehensive of wanting to try it. But I just went ahead and said, the heck with it.
Just keep going forward. I don't think it's, a side note before we, finish up. This is just an opinion of mine, Steve. I hope you don't mind my saying it. I don't think it's appropriate to have to announce a goodbye. If you're just going to do a goodbye, bye. There's no reason to announce it. That's actually stupid.
What? Back then, and I replied back to the person. I said, look, I said, I'm just trying to, I said, my channel's random. I don't think I had changed my name over to Everywhere with Steve Young 74 at the time. And I just spoke up and I said, I'm just trying to add some variety to my channel. What I currently continue to talk about won't stop. I said, that'll still be there. I'm just trying to add a little more in with it to doctor it up. Maybe subscribers want to hear something different. I don't know. Because, even though my channel is in the position that it's in currently, here and there I still like to feel it out, you know.
That's actually very gentlemanlike of you because you've been a very kind person to approach it that way. I would have just said absolutely zero. That's how I do it. I just
Yeah,
nothing, not a word.
usually that's the approach that I take. I just adios,
I mean,
fine.
everybody's free to do whatever they want to,
Yeah,
but just don't be rude to the
no,
content creator. That's all.
no. I mean, if you're not happy with what I
So
said,
whoever it is, I wish them absolutely the best.
yeah. I think I might have seen them pop back up maybe once or twice,
Okay.
but are they still there? I don't know. That's totally up to them. If you're there, great. If you're not, thanks for giving me the opportunity to serve you in whatever.
Absolutely. Anybody that stops by any channel, even for a minute, thank you for your time. I mean, we appreciate everybody's time.
If I gave you any content that was of help to you, that you enjoyed, that was good, and it was of help, and now all of a sudden you're dissatisfied, well, sorry. Sorry you feel that way, but I was glad to see you there at the time that you were there.
Right.
Have a good one. If you decide to come back, the door's always open. If not, well,
Right.
oh
That's
well.
right. It's a good approach. Very good.
Yeah, I don't know any other way to, put it out there to the people.
Well,
So,
Steve, thank you so much for having me on.
oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure. And I want to come back to this for a minute. I just
I
love that.
love that video clip.
Yeah,
They're all great. You got good backgrounds. Nice.
yeah. So, I I'm glad that everybody was able to tune in today. Jan, thank you for all as always to come by.
Thanks for having me.
Um, you're welcome. And this was a good segment we did. I want to see how it does, because if it works and you like it, and I hope you do, um, I can talk about other genres of music in
And
decades
to mention, Steve we just finished recording a show. He's on the Sunday show, my Sunday show.
with
So if you
you.
can't get enough of
That's
Steve and
right.
Jan hanging out, come
Yes.
back to the other show on my channel. This was
Stop by.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope everybody has a great, whatever time of day it is, and we'll see you guys back here next time. Bye.
Bye.